Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ketogenic Fasting Project. Today, I'm talking about sleep. What is probably one of the most common complaints among people? They have trouble sleeping, and I think one of the problems with sleep is we don't really understand it all that well. It falls under that category of being heavily contaminated by wives' tales and bro science. And of course, there's a lot of things in our modern times that interfere with sleep. Back before electric lights, people slept a lot more hours because there just couldn't, there wasn't much to do at night. Uh, having having candles lit or lanterns or whatever, keeping the fire going was sort of expensive and not necessarily worth it. So people optimized the daylight hours, and people tended to sleep from shortly after sunset till dawn. Which of course changes throughout the year. Those number of hours change, and that's one of the suggestions is that maybe we should get back to a society that is more in sync with the sun, or what's known as your circadian rhythm. So you need your sleep cycle synced with the sun, because I'm sure most people have heard by now that watching TV or looking at your tablet or your phone or your computer or whatever, that light helps interrupt your sleep cycle. So in particular, it reduces the amount of melatonin. It can actually stop the production of melatonin, which melatonin helps you go to sleep. You can't take it in a pill form, but it obviously it's like everything else. You run into problems when you try and take a pill to solve a natural problem. We are the only animals that will willfully deprive ourselves of sleep. Sometimes you get you can give yourself a big pat on the back. You get kudos for pushing yourself. And doing it once in a while is not a big deal, but doing it all the time, disastrous. We talked about leptin and ghrelin before. Those are the basically the hunger hormones, as it were. Leptin is a one that signals that you're full, that you're not hungry, and ghrelin is the one that signals that you are. And this is where sleep is tied to hormones in this way, because when you get enough sleep, you tend to have more leptin and less ghrelin. Anybody who's had to stay up will tell you that they tend to crave foods. It's kind of an energy-seeking thing. Sugar, caffeine, and all that stuff can help people stay awake. Of course, nicotine. And then we have to talk about cortisol. Cortisol is probably right behind insulin as far as its power to cause you to gain weight or interrupt weight loss. So cortisol is what's known as a stress hormone. For those people, I know I got a friend, Wendy, who's take a lot of cortisol medication. So prednisone and gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the other one, but cortisone, sound familiar? They're all related. Cortisol is a natural form, and when you're stressed, you don't get enough sleep, your cortisol levels go up. So if you have a high level of cortisol, it's very hard to lose weight. It's almost impossible. It can almost categorically destroy all your efforts, even if you're doing everything else right. It is a major sabotage. So cortisol and insulin tend to be higher when you're stressed and you don't get enough sleep. So getting enough sleep, I know all the people out there think that they're warriors because they get by on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Even 6 hours is generally not enough. So some people do train themselves. Some people naturally can't sleep. But if you're miserable, you don't feel good, you're overweight, you're sick, and all that, sleep is probably a major component in that, because you got to be asleep to do a lot of things. Not enough sleep is statistically correlated with obesity, cancer, caloric upswing, meaning you need to consume more calories, and it encourages you to consume more carbohydrates, which just compounds the problem. So there's been a lot of studies done on shift workers, people who work at night. They definitely have higher obesity, higher blood pressure, higher cancer, and eat more carbohydrates. So, there's a whole number of factors of why that happens, but just interrupting the sleep cycle and not having it synced with the sun is a problem, but not getting enough sleep is even a bigger problem. During sleep, those muscles you use get rebuilt. So when you use a muscle or a joint, they wear down. Muscle fibers tear and stuff like that. And then in deep sleep, when you're immobilized, these things are rebuilt. So you not only need the nutrition to rebuild them, you not only need the building blocks, but you need to be in deep sleep. That's why the bodybuilders abuse things like ketamine and other stuff like that to help them stay in a deeper state, so they're immobilized, so they get more time. And really one of the tricks is you people spend different amounts of time in the different sleep stages, and the real trick is that you have to get through enough cycles every night. So if you're not in bed sleeping long enough, you won't get through enough cycles. It's not necessarily that you have to have a certain amount of time in the cycle, but you have to get through the number of cycles. Your brain also goes through chemical changes when you're sleeping. Um, Things like serotonin and melatonin and stuff like that all need to be tightly regulated. And when your sleep is disrupted, those things get out of whack. And of course, when you're sleeping, unless you just ate a Thanksgiving feast right before you went to sleep, you're fasting. So think about sleeping longer as just an easy way to extend a fast. So if you stop eating 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 hours before, probably a minimum of 2 hours before you go to bed, and all that time you're sleeping, you got a good chance of just being burning off that body fat naturally. So if you get in the habit of sleeping more, you can burn off more fat just naturally, effortlessly, no discomfort, right? How much to sleep? Well, 7 to 10 hours is what the research suggests, right? And of course, dusk till dawn would be ideal, not necessarily feasible, but an approximation of that. When the sun goes down, you should be getting sleepier. Of course, we have electric lights and TVs and everything else keeping us awake. The term midnight comes from the concept that midnight was the middle of the night. In the middle of the night, would be a time to be sleeping. Cool temperatures help you sleep. One of the things that happens when you take a warm bath, warm shower, is your core body temperature actually goes down because you're surrounded by all that heat. So your body starts to try and reduce uh, your core temperature. And then when you get out of the tub or shower or whatever, and you go get in bed, since your core is cooled off, it helps you go to sleep. So obviously you want to have the lights off. You can get little stickers to put over the lights on your cable box, or whatever LEDs are in your room, and then or you can use a little piece of tape or something, cover them up to get things as dark as you can. You want to cut out sound and noises. Of course, everybody's susceptibility to these things is individualized and variable. How many hours of sleep you need, individualized and variable, but you're going to sabotage your diet, your fitness, your health if you don't get enough sleep, and you got to figure out what that is. I use the yellow glasses. Here's the thing. Let's say I am a busy guy. I love TV. I love movies. I like to watch a little before I go to sleep. Well, one of the things that's happening when you watch a television is that you um, are receiving blue light from that screen, and that blue light is what is causing an interruption in the production of melatonin, and the reduction of melatonin and is making it harder for you to go to sleep. So, aside from not guzzling caffeine, you can wear a pair of yellow tinted glasses. You could get those actual blue blocker glasses. You put those on, and you will notice that you get drowsy much easier. Now, some people need to put these on as soon as the sun goes down. So when they're walking around the house and things are lit up or whatever, it's blocking out the blue light from all the different sources. And then they will get in bed and fall asleep much easier. I also use earplugs. I'll show you those later. Another thing I'd love to try sometime is a chili pad. Chili pad actually allows you to regulate the temperature between you and your mattress. It actually is a machine that circulates either warming or cooling liquid through tubes in a pad, and you set it to a temperature, and the machine warms or cools the liquid to keep you. Now, they're like $1,000, so I haven't bought one yet, but I'd love to, and I hear they work great. Some people use grounding straps or grounding mats. I haven't tried that yet. Lux is a software I believe you could buy. You can load it on different devices, so you can still look at a screen like on a phone or a tablet or a computer, and it turns down the blue light. It changes the color of the screen, but you can still see what you're looking at. Windows 10 has that built in. It's a setting in there. You could say, oh, at 9 o'clock, turn off the blue light in the screen. Works great. Apple has that as well. It's funny because it seems like everybody who writes books about this uses an Apple. They know about Apple. They don't know about Windows. They know you can download an app for your phone or whatever, but I guess that's just it. A lot of the people who write these books are not poor people. They could buy nice Apple computers. So alcohol can make you drowsy, but alcohol interrupts the cycles when you're sleeping. So even though you have alcohol or even an anesthetic that knocks you out, you're not necessarily in a state of sleeping. So you're not necessarily getting the restorative properties that natural sleep gives you. Same thing with cannabis. People will tell you they smoke cannabis for a long time and then they quit, take a month off or whatever, and then realize that they're sleeping better. So as much as the occasional user uses it to go to sleep when they need it, it helps. If you're a daily user, just like drinking alcohol, it interrupts. Same thing. Diphenhydramine is stuff that's in Benadryl and all kinds of allergy medication and stuff. It helps people go to sleep. But typically in a lot of people, it lasts a long time while they're asleep. It interferes, so they're not as well rested and often wake up groggy. Melatonin, it can help. I don't think it works if you take it every day. At least it didn't for me. I took it for a while and it helped. But after a while, I'd feel grouchy or whatever when I woke up, or uh, it would knock me out. I'd have trouble getting up the next morning. I was taking little tiny, like half milligram doses or something, and I knew people that were giving their kids 8 milligrams, like 16 times what I was taking. I was like, what? How is that possible? Why aren't they in a coma? So again, all very individualized. Kava, it's like an herbal remedy. I took the pills, kind of reminded me of melatonin. A lot of people sip a tea. Again, I think it can help occasionally, but I don't think any of these help if you do them every day. I think it just screws you up. Um, you can train yourself to sleep less. It's, I I've heard somebody like a famous bodybuilder we all know saying that, yeah, you could train yourself to sleep less and get more done, get out there and make money. But, a lot of the people talking like that, they use a lot of pharmacology to help them along the way for a number of things, including steroids. Don't think that steroids don't work. They do. They give you the ability to train harder and do more. That's really what they're all about. And that includes sleeping less. If you want to gamble with that, hey, more power to you. But most of that stuff's illegal. I wouldn't do it. So, um, I don't think compensating for a lack of sleep with drugs and artificial hormones is really the way to go. But it is out there. Like I mentioned before, shift workers, late night workers, they have a higher incidence of cancer. That's been documented over and over again, and it's starting to become a part of a legal framework where you see that shift working and stuff like that is considered a carcinogen in some countries. Um, there is a strong statistical correlation between heart attacks and daylight savings. 24% increase when we lose that hour of sleep. That's shocking. You got to think, why do we still have daylight savings? You know, when we get that extra hour back, there's a 21% decrease. I wish I had the source with me, but I was reading an article or I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how they changed the start time for schools in a community, because they're like, yeah, no, these kids are tired. You know, a lot of them have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. It's dark half the time, and have to get ready, and then parents have to get them to school and everything. And we don't think they're learning because they're as well as they could because they're not getting enough sleep. So they adjusted that start time, I think, to like 9:30 or something like that. And though not only did the kids do better, but they had a 71% decrease in traffic accidents, because traffic accidents are primarily caused by people falling asleep. I mean, that's the number one cause. Because drunk drivers might have a poor reaction time and stuff like that, but when you're asleep at the wheel, you don't react. So the accidents tend to be unavoidable at that point and tend to be more severe because you're not conscious to mitigate it. So it's another reason why sleep is important in society in general. Kind of doesn't support the fact that not enough sleeping, waking up too early, staying up too late is bad for our health. And like I mentioned before, it's the easiest way to extend your fast. You know, if you stop eating 2, 3 hours before, and then you sleep a solid 8 hours, boom, you got 11 hours of fasting right there. And then if you don't eat breakfast because you're not hungry, you wait till lunch, boom, you're gonna add on some more hours. You know what, 4 hours if you get up at 8 o'clock, it's another 4 hours. So you're up to 15 hours of fasting. And I think that's what the human body in general really likes. So I read this book or listened to this book on Audible called The Sleep Solution. I found it very helpful. If anything, I understood sleep and the sleeping process, and the Dr. Chris Winters talks about the struggles that patients have with sleeping and their understanding of sleeping and how to fix it. So I think it's a great book. I know it's not the only book out there. I have another one on my list that I'm looking for to look at sleep, but I highly recommend it. Good book. It gets you on the right page, and it gives you a lot of tools to work with to help you get better sleep. One of the tools I use is earplugs. I am really sensitive to sound and light. Um, and I use these earplugs. Even if you're laying with your ear on the pillow, they don't hurt. You know, a lot of the other earplugs, they can be pretty irritating if you're putting any pressure on them. These will fall out after a while. You can use them for a week or two, and then you gotta throw them away and get some other ones because they just don't stay put. But they're not that expensive. You should be able to get them at the pharmacy or Amazon or whatever, and give them a try. And you can use them for swimming too, to keep water out of your ears and stuff like that. I've used them at the gun range and stuff like that as well. So I like them. It's good stuff, and it's not certainly not the only ones. I have other earplugs I'll show in another podcast sometime. So this is the end. I want to thank you for listening to the Ketogenic Fasting Project podcast video number 10. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'm sorry this ran a little longer than I wanted, but it is what it is. Thank you. I hope this helps somebody.